Morning America, breaking news as we come on the air, a deadly terror attack overseas. Horror this morning after an anti-Muslim gunman in military gear opened fire inside two mosques in New Zealand where hundreds were praying. At least 49 killed, dozens more injured.
I'm 66 and never thought in my life I'd live to see something like this.
Bombs also found attached to cars.
This is one of New Zealand's darkest days.
Officials telling worshippers to stay home now and lock their doors. 3 suspects already in custody, the dramatic police takedown, and the white supremacist manifesto discovered online. Now concerns back home. Security heightened in mosques all across America right now. We're live with the latest.
Also this morning, chilling new details from that deadly plane crash. The pilot facing an emergency just moments after takeoff in that Boeing 737 MAX jet.
Tornadoes hitting the heartland. The roof of this church in Kentucky completely torn off. Preschool children rushed to safety. Rob here with the latest.
Lori Loughlin out of a job. The Hallmark Channel has cut ties as she faces charges in the largest college admissions cheating scandal ever. Her daughter also loses a major business deal as the first lawsuits from students are filed.
And Whoopi Goldberg thankful to be alive after a near-death experience. The View co-host making a surprise return to the show, revealing her nearly fatal battle with pneumonia. What her co-hosts are saying about the big reunion, only on GMA this morning.
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
Good morning, America. We want to get right to that breaking news, an anti-Muslim terror attack in New Zealand. The Prime Minister there is calling it one of the nation's darkest days. A gunman attacked 2 mosques while hundreds of Muslims were praying.
The man who is claiming responsibility and charged with murder is an extreme right-wing white supremacist who live-streamed the attack, saying it was aimed at immigrants. Security stepping up here in the U.S. That's a live look at the Islamic Cultural Center right here in New York City.
So here's what we know right now. At least 49 people were killed, 48 more wounded, multiple IEDs discovered attached to vehicles, and 3 people are now in custody. Our senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell starts us off with the very latest.
Horrific scenes in a normally peaceful country playing out at 2 mosques in Christchurch. As worshippers were at midday prayers, the holiest of the week, multiple people ruthlessly gunned down. At 1:42 p.m. local time, witnesses say a man dressed all in black entered the Masjid al-Nur mosque, shooting an automatic weapon.
People were running out. I saw some people had blood on their body and some people were limping.
This man seen with blood on his shirt was the last to escape, hiding under a bench.
He just came in, he was shooting, and I'm thinking that, if I get out, I'll get shot, so I'm just keeping my fingers crossed so I could be alive. But yeah, I was the last guy to come out of the mosque after the shooting stopped. And on the doors, there were a lot of bodies.
The killer then drove 3 miles across town to the Linwood Mosque, where he opened fire again. Armed police closed in on the scene, searching cars for suspects, guns drawn. Police ramming a suspect's car, and then you can see him being taken into custody beside the vehicle. 2 men and a woman now in custody in connection to the attacks. The shooter, who appears to have been from Australia, is linked to a 74-page manifesto filled with white supremacist rhetoric. He's charged with murder. Police also saying they defused 2 improvised explosive devices that were found on a vehicle after the shootings. Amidst the chaos, police officials now warning people to stay away from any mosque in New Zealand for now, in case of further violence.
I want to ask anyone that was thinking of going to a mosque anywhere in New Zealand today not to go, to close your doors until you hear from us again.
Ambulances rushing victim after victim to hospitals as bystanders helped the wounded.
We pulled up and I opened up my driver's door and got out, and we pulled him round behind and then opened up the back as well, give us some protection. I'm 66 and never thought in my life I'd live to see something like this.
Overnight, New Zealand's Prime Minister condemning this terrorist attack.
This is one of New Zealand's darkest days. Clearly, what has happened here is an extraordinary and unprecedented act of violence.
So details still coming in about the attacker, his alleged accomplices, but most importantly, the victims. Two reasons why this was so shocking. One, it was broadcast live by the attacker himself, but most importantly, this is a country that has never seen a terrorist attack ever before. But nor should it be seen in isolation. There's been a noticeable increase in extreme right-wing terrorist attacks from America to Europe and elsewhere. And whether you're going to a mosque, to a church or to a temple today, the chances are you're going to be on high alert as you do the most peaceful possible thing, pray. George.
Okay, and thanks very much. I want to bring in a member of the New Zealand Parliament, Jerry Brownlee, former Defence Minister, as well. Our sympathies, our condolences to all the people of New Zealand this morning. Mr. Brownlee, as we've heard, this is such an unprecedented attack for your country.
Yes, it is. It's something that we never expected to have happen here. We're a relatively small population, and while we are ethnically quite diverse, we live very peaceable lives. And this has, as many have said, kind of shattered our innocence in a way. It is, that mosque is just a short distance, about 4 kilometres from where I live, and it's still just a shock, with that number of people and such a small population here in the Christchurch city. Almost everyone will know someone or have a connection to the families of someone who has been either killed or seriously wounded today.
And Mr. Brownlee, do authorities feel like the situation is under control right now?
I think most people would be very impressed with the way our police have acted so quickly in being able to apprehend a suspect who looks pretty much like he is the guy, and he'll appear in the court tomorrow morning, and we'll know a lot more after that. They continue, it's night time here at the moment, and they're continuing with their efforts to secure the city and to see if there are any others beyond the 4 that they've arrested who might be part of this organisation.
Was this kind of anti-Muslim, white supremacist violence on anyone's radar in New Zealand?
I don't think so. We haven't experienced sort of anti-Muslim sort of activities here. We are part of the Five Eyes Network, along with the United States, Canada, Great Britain, and Australia, and we are part of the coalition against ISIS. But we didn't expect that we would have this sort of terrorism in New Zealand, which appears to be not necessarily related to the ISIS type attacks, but white supremacists, which just does not fit for this country and its makeup.
Going forward, any sense now of what must be done?
Oh, I think the important thing is that we firstly support the families who've had such horrific losses and will be, deeply, deeply affected for so very long to come. Beyond that, I think we've got to be very careful that while we are vigilant about, people in our community who don't see life the way we do, we don't end up losing a lot of the freedoms that we have. New Zealand is a country where people have always felt very secure and very free, and this certainly has shaken that belief up today, and we've got to make sure that we don't end up with a permanent loss of the freedom that we so value.
Secure, free, and tolerant New Zealand, known as such a happy place.
Well, that's how we like to be seen. I think that is pretty much how we are. But this is a huge wake up and just very, very distressing for the overwhelming majority of the New Zealand population. It's only a few nutters on the fringes that cause this sort of problem, but man, have they done some damage here.
They certainly have. We're sorry for your loss. Mr. Brownlee, thank you for joining us this morning. I want to bring in our Chief Justice Correspondent, Pierre Thomas, as well. And Pierre, the minister hitting on something very important there. We've been so focused on Islamic extremism, but what we've seen in recent months, in recent years, a rise in white supremacism, a rise in right-wing violence.
That's right, George. The early evidence suggests the killer in New Zealand was motivated by hate, so there is cause for concern in the U.S. as well. According to the FBI, the number of hate crimes has jumped a dramatic 17% when comparing 2016 to 2017. There were more than 8,000 victims in 2017. And George, sadly, 58% were motivated by race, 22% were motivated by religion. And George, this chilling reminder, the New Zealand suspect was allegedly inspired by Anders Breivik, the white supremacist who killed all those people in Norway in 2011. And just last month, we had a Coast Guard lieutenant accused of plotting to kill U.S. Democratic politicians, and he studied Breivik as well, George.
And Pierre, we've seen it here as well, so many attacks on places of worship.
We have, George, you know, we just had the incident in Pittsburgh a few months ago, all those people killed. This is an ongoing concern, and given the scale of the attack that we saw in New Zealand, we're already seeing law enforcement officials in Los Angeles and San Francisco, as well as New York, providing those extra patrols today, George.
Yeah, we're seeing that at the Islamic Center in New York today. Pierre Thomas, thanks very much. Amy?
All right, George, now to those disturbing new details about that deadly plane crash. A new report detailing how that Boeing 737 MAX jet was doomed almost immediately after takeoff. Our senior transportation correspondent, David Curley, has much more from Reagan National Airport. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Amy. These new details, the readout of what we're actually hearing in radio traffic is very dramatic, but what was actually said in the cockpit voice recorder is trying to be extracted at this hour.
Chilling new details of the final moments of that doomed Ethiopian plane. Right after takeoff, the captain reporting problems. Overnight, the New York Times reporting that controllers saw the Boeing 737 MAX 8 tilting up and down, moving unusually fast. And then minutes later, panic. A person familiar with the air traffic communication says as the jet accelerated beyond its safety limits, the captain then asked to return to the airport in a panicky voice. The plane disappearing from radar 3 minutes later, killing all 157 on board. Investigators on the scene are now looking at what is called a jack screw, a threaded rod in the tail section of the plane which controls whether the nose tilts up or down. This after new data led the FAA to order a temporary grounding of all 737 MAXs in the U.S., leaving hundreds of flights canceled. The concern is that the Ethiopia crash is related to the Lion Air crash less than 5 months ago. Answers may come from the black boxes, which are being worked on at this hour in France.
So the mystery could be solved in a matter of days or hours?
I would think yes. Once they start reading out the recorders, they'll know fairly quickly exactly what this is. Is this a repeat of Lion Air, or is this something different?
With the current fleet of 370 jets grounded, Boeing is stopping delivery of all MAXs, but will continue building its fastest-selling jetliner with nearly 5,000 on order. Also this morning, new details about the aftermath of that first crash. One 737 pilot coming forward, citing a tense meeting between Boeing executives and other pilots last November, claiming they were left in the dark about a new automated safety feature in this brand new jet.
After the Lion Air tragedy, we learned that there was equipment on our aircraft that we were not aware of. It wasn't even in our books.
So we know they're working on the boxes. Whether they get the data and when we hear what is on that data, we don't know, but it could help us determine what happened to the aircraft. The cause, though, still could be some time off. Cecilia?
Yeah, the big clues could be there. Okay, David Curley, thank you. We'll turn now to that major storm bringing tornadoes and flooding to the Midwest and the South, destroying some homes. Rob's here with the latest. Hey, Rob.
Hi, Cecilia. Here's an EF2 that went through Paducah, Kentucky, one of 10 tornadoes reported during the day yesterday, and also severe weather across parts of the South. This was associated with that bomb cyclone. We had 2 surges of severe storms, one late morning and one as the storm set.
Overnight, reported tornadoes hitting America's heartland, leaving significant damage behind. A confirmed tornado in southeast Michigan, uprooting trees and tearing through cinder block walls, damaging dozens of homes in Shiawassee County alone. One man barely making it to safety.
5 seconds. I mean, it sounded like a train was going right by you. And it lasted 5 seconds and it was gone.
Another woman inside her home when the tornado hit.
Actually had to climb over everything. The entire ceiling was caved in on the floor. The couches were all pushed up into the kitchen where we were. Climbing over all that, the glass, like I said, the roof.
In the South, this drone video revealing the damage in Allgood, Alabama. Wicked storms causing mammoth trees to topple over onto streets. Torrential rains blinding motorists. Students at Jacksonville State University urged to take shelter as lightning illuminates the sky. And this, a confirmed EF2 tornado ripping through Paducah, Kentucky, with peak winds of 125 miles per hour, completely ripping off the roof of this church. Inside, 40 preschool children and their instructors. Thankfully, none of them injured.
That is good news there. This all on the warm side of that cyclone. Also on the warm side, a lot of melting snow, a lot of heavy rain leading to this across much of Iowa. The rivers there in full flood zone in eastern parts of Nebraska as well. And this video just outside of Green Bay, the East River there in 12 hours. Look how quickly it rose because of melting snow, rainfall, and likely some ice jams. We could have a similar situation today in northern New York and northern New England, George, as the system finally pushes through.
And I know you'll be watching it all. Okay, Rob, thanks very much. We're going to turn now to that growing list of Democrats hoping to take on President Trump. Paula Ferris went one-on-one with the latest candidate to join the ranks, former Texas Congressman Beto O'Rourke. Good morning, Paula.
Good morning to you, George. Not that long ago, he told me there was no scenario, win or lose that Senate seat, that he would run for president in 2020 or beyond. But as he crisscrossed the state of Iowa yesterday, we asked him what changed his mind and about his relative lack of experience.
The next president of the United States.
Beto O'Rourke kicking off his 2020 bid in Iowa, and we were right there as he canvassed the state, calling for unity.
Hey, everybody, what's up? Doesn't matter whose team you are on today. Doesn't matter which prospective nominee that you back.
The 46-year-old tireless on the trail just hours after his Vanity Fair cover story and his official announcement, with wife Amy by his side.
The only way for us to live up to the promise of America is to give it our all.
It's been 4 months since that failed Senate race against Ted Cruz, when he told numerous outlets, including us, he'd never run for president.
You weren't going to run. What made you change your mind?
I think I have something to add to this, and my country, my kids, our future depend on every single one of us doing every single thing we can. And for me, that's running for president.
But O'Rourke already facing tough questions surrounding his readiness for the job. His 6 years in Congress, largely unremarkable.
One of the criticisms is that you don't have any significant legislation attached to your name. We know you can fundraise, we know you can campaign, but why should voters be confident that you can govern?
You know, in the minority party for 6 years in Congress, I was able to work with Republicans. I was even able to work with this administration to get legislation passed. We always work together, and we find our common purpose and common cause, and then we get after it.
So unity and positivity, that is his campaign platform. Whether or not it's a winning strategy to beat Trump, who, you guys, as you know, occasionally likes a street fight, Beto O'Rourke tells me it's the only way that he knows how to run. Something's back to you.
Still cold there in Des Moines, isn't it, Paula?
Just a tad. Didn't think it was going to be this cold in Iowa. I was wrong.
Okay, Paula, thanks very much. Fallout growing up for that college admissions cheating scandal. New trouble for Lori Loughlin and her daughter. That's ahead.
Also, Whoopi Goldberg's surprise return to The View after her near-death health battle coming up. We're behind the scenes with her co-hosts. But first, let's go back over to Rob.
Cold in Iowa, but warming up here in the East Coast. We'll have some storms because of it. Time for your weekend getaways now, brought to you by Tide Pods.
We'd love some help with laundry. Here's how you do it. Spray and scrub anything with a stain. Soak your nasty jersey, it stinks. Wash the really dirty clothes separately. Remember, hard work builds character.
New Tide Pods with upgraded 4-in-1 technology unleash a foolproof clean in one step.
Aw, you did the laundry.
But you didn't fold it.
Oh, that wasn't in the note. You should have sent a text.
#1 stain and odor fighter. #1 trusted. It's got to be Tide.
Well, you can leave the jacket at home today. An exceptionally warm start, and it's going to be a very warm afternoon again. More clouds and maybe a passing shower for your afternoon, especially along and east of I-95 for areas like southern Maryland around 3 to about 6 o'clock today. Now, on the other side of that front, nice evening for us, a little breezy. Your weekend, too, a little breezy on Saturday, the high 52, 50 degrees expected on Sunday, and then temperatures will be in the 50s most of the early part of next week.
Friday, guys, have some fun video I want to show you. This from that bomb cyclone. Windy conditions across the country, and this, folks, you know, garbage day is hard enough, let alone when it's raining and it's snowing and the winds are blowing 50, 60 miles. She managed to get things going right. So hope you're off to a good weekend and take care of your garbage and your pets and your people.
I like your shamrock tie, by the way.
Hey, yeah, it's St. Patrick's Day coming up on Sunday.
All right, you won't get pinched.
Rob is ready. We'll be right back.
If you have postmenopausal osteoporosis and a high risk for fracture, now might not be the best time to ask yourself, are my bones strong? Life's full of